So I guess we'll start the other half of the tour, I guess. So we'll talk about our facilities here and what we've been up to and what we're doing. So just to give you a bit of a history, I guess, our family's been involved in organic for over about 20 years here now. My parents have started off as organic farmers. Well, we were both conventional till about 2000. And then Dad started his first few acres into organic. And but we've been doing value added ever since day one, I guess, because 20 years ago, the markets weren't as strong. So you had to kind of create your own markets at that point. So Dad was able to find a few clients, a few bakeries in town, Tallgrass Bakery being one of our first customers. And so he was supplying them. And then eventually more markets came up and more calls came in and we expanded our acres. And so then Dad had his farm fully organic. 2004 we started our transition period. 2006 we were organic at that point. Not the whole farm for ourselves. It was in about 2008, I guess we had everything certified organic at that point. So then from there our markets continued to expand. And so about 2008, I guess, we decided we're going to convert this building into a processing facility. So the first basic drawing that I had was a couple pieces of equipment. I had all kinds of room to move stuff around. I figured, great, no problem, the building was big enough. By the time the project got completed, we're too small now. It should have been a bigger building, but as we had more calls for different products and more specialty stuff as dehulling in that, we had to buy extra pieces of equipment, try to fit it in here and squeeze it all in. So for the 10 years, we had the piece of equipment, we take out a pail and we just dump the product into each piece of equipment and just kind of figure out a flow for what we had to do with each product. And so after 5 or 6 years of doing that and coming up with some ideas, then we decided we were going to make this more efficient. So we got rid of all the little pencil augers that we had, and we had to move equipment around with pallet jacks to get everything in the right line and stuff like that. So we finally said there was enough of that. So we decided to make the deep plunge into investing more into the plant. And that's where all these pipes come into play. So the grain is moved pneumatically. So it was easier for cleaning, and it was easier to move it from one piece of equipment by just a matter of switching a pipe around. So it made it really handy that way. So that's why we decided to go with that system. But I guess if you're looking at doing value added as a producer, you got to, when we started, I guess the biggest thing, we didn't know what we were doing. So maybe that's why we got as far as we did, because it would have scared me maybe at the start. But we started small, and then you try to create your markets. But the biggest thing is to have enough inventory, have the expertise to do the product before you ship it. So it was a bit of a learning curve at the start. So that's why we kind of built our business slower. But in hindsight, I guess if I would have known more what direction I wanted to go, it would have been a little bit simpler. We're working more on the retail side of things. So our plant is not a huge plant, but we can do lots of different products. The only thing when you're doing retail, it's a lot more time consuming and a lot more work. I mean, the dollars are there, but it requires a lot more work. So now we're trying to get more into the industrial food system. The trick with that is it's more competitive, and the pricing, if you're 10, 20 cents off from your competitor, you don't get the market. So efficiency is a big thing with them. So that's been a bit of a struggle. Also, offshore markets are a bit of a struggle. You got to kind of compete against pricing on there. Especially when you're dealing with the bigger companies, they're not too worried about where the product comes from or what the product looks like. It's more about pricing. So you have to kind of watch which companies you're working with, or a little bit more of a limit, I guess, is a better way to put it. So, but all in all, it's been working. Our business has been expanding. So we are getting more into custom work here now. So we're doing custom for other farmers who want to do value added, or we're doing for companies who are looking to get some product done. So that's been picking up not too bad here in the past year now. So that part's okay.
And then you'll only do organic custom?
No, I do conventional also, because we need the volume to go through this plant in order to pay for it. So we'll do whichever. But I mean, we got the protocols that we have to do whatever. I mean, whether it's wheat or whatever, I'll do organic wheat, then conventional, then and then log and paperwork and all that. So if you guys are familiar with organic, you know how that works. So, but hindsight, like with the equipment that we have here now, most of it was all used equipment. I didn't buy new, so everything's been refurbished, whether it was the grain bins. Like we'll take a tour out there afterwards or whatever, but the grain bins and some of the equipment that I bought here came out of seed plants that guys were looking to expand. Again, efficiency-wise and more volume put through their plant or whatever. So we're able to pick up these at a fairly reasonable price, but we had to refurbish it, take it apart, rebuild it, and go from there. So like I say, our plant is not a high capacity plant, but I mean, I'm able to do a fairly good job with it anyway. So, like I say, I'll kind of explain each piece of equipment, but then you guys can kind of walk around and walk through it. And if you got any questions, we can kind of go from there or whatever. So at the far back, that's against that far wall. That's where the grain will be coming in. There's a blue, well, I say blue, but most of it's blue around here, but there's a square box in the back, and that's an air screen machine. So what that machine will do, it'll separate by length. So there's a bit of air, they'll come in, suck up any of the fine dust or any hulls or whatever, it'll suck some of that up, and then the grain will be sized according to its thickness. And then from there, it'll go to this one here. So this was drums with different size pockets, and what that'll do, it'll separate by length. So if you have a round seed and a wheat seed or whatever, it's able to separate that because of the different length of the seed. And then from there, it goes to a gravity table. So what that does is that's for density, so it's based on your weight. Now we have another table on this side. That one also does density, but we use that one for oats because oats is a little bit, when you're trying to separate oats, when you're dehulling oats and you're trying to separate that, this one uses air to do the separation. This one just uses just simple shaking and the different weights. So that's why this one works better for oats. We'll open it up so you can see, but it's just kind of a ladder, and the lighter stuff will head to the top and the groats will go down. So we had to find that piece of equipment. I actually found this one in Manitoba. I was kind of surprised. But somebody else was going to try oats and they never did finish up with the project, but we were able to find that one. And then from there, it goes to a color sorter. So that one sorts by color. And that's been a handy piece of equipment to have. I mean, we've been able to do quite a few different products with that. Because we do dehulling, it'll separate any products that aren't dehulled, and we're able to go back to the plant to run through the dehuller again. So that's been a pretty valuable piece of equipment for us there. So, and like I say, we do dehulling. Now I have two style of dehullers here. One's an impact style. And what that does is the grain falls in the middle of, it looks like an impeller. So it falls in the middle and it'll throw the grain up against a steel band and it just pops the hulls off. And then from there, it'll go through the system and then I'll separate the hulls from the product. And anything that's not dehulled, I got to set up it with a vacuum system that can go back at the front of the plant and start over again. The other one is a stone style dehuller, and that's what we use for buckwheat. So that one you have to pre-size your grain first, and then you set your stone gap to whatever size that you're dehulling. And so it's mostly for buckwheat, or if you're going to do lentils, split lentils and things like that, like your bean drops, we use it for that there too. So that's a homemade one that we had made. We priced some of them out on the market. They're pretty expensive, over 50 grand, and they came out of Europe, and I just didn't quite like the way they were made. So we made this one for about half the price. So just finding a few things here and there. So. And yeah, so then from there, it'll go through the system again, color sort, whatever. And then from there, we can go to this bagging bin. So here we can either do 50-pound bags or we can do tote bags, is where that long pipe comes. So we can do either one, or it goes back outside for bulk. So we got 3 different options there. So we're finding that our bagging system seems to be quite popular with some of these companies, especially the tote bags. We've been doing more and more tote bags there too. So the companies seem to like that. So that's been working out pretty good. But if you ever decide you want to get into building a seed plant, come talk to me first. There's a few little secrets, ins and outs of what to do and what to get around. The biggest thing I can tell you, if you are going to do that, keep yourself under an agricultural plant. As soon as you use the word commercial, it's going to cost you twice as much money, twice as much paperwork, and a lot more taxes. So just if you can stay under the agricultural label, you're better off. So, well, because we farm and we're doing our own grain, we're value adding our grain, we can stay under agriculture. Now, we're getting into a gray area now that I'm doing more custom, so we'll see how that pans out. But again, the plant's already built, so I might be grandfathered in. I don't know yet. We'll wait till the authorities tell me anything different. I ask for forgiveness lots around here. Because you don't know all the ins and outs of what all the rules are. You find out as the experts come along and tell you that you can't do that. But anyway, because doing agriculture, we built a lot of our own equipment, so we didn't have to do. Otherwise, you have to get engineers, you have to get certified welders, you have to do a bunch of other stuff there too. So, but in agriculture, they give you quite a bit of flexibility that way. So that part was okay. That was a whole different issue there too. When we first, like I say, when we first had the plant idea, the power consumption wasn't going to be that high. So we got the plant built. I talked to Hydro. I said, well, I need an upgrade 800 amp service. I thought, not a big deal. Well, apparently it is a big deal. They drove out here, the engineers, they looked at it, looked at the wire, said, nope, that wire's not big enough for that, so you got to go 3-phase. I said, okay, so what does that cost? Well, our nearest 3-phase line is about 3.5 miles away. So they wanted $200,000 up front before they even put a pole in the ground. So I said no. Well, we're already maxed out on our credit anyway, so we weren't going to be able to borrow the $200,000. And then even for the charges, they have your regular charge for the power use itself, and then they have this on-demand charge, which is just a random thing that kicks on when you start up the plant, and when it spikes, that's what they base your demand charge on. So, and it could vary from month to month. So it got pretty expensive. So by the time I figured that, plus my loan payment on the $200,000, we decided to go with a generator. So we run a 3-phase generator in that shed back there. So it's a diesel operated there now. We are looking at changing it over to biodiesel here shortly, hopefully. I'm sending about 20,000 liters of French fry oil down my bottom yard there now. So it's just a matter of filtering it, put the kit, yep. So hopefully we'll get that going. And then we're hoping to do intercropping and start growing more oil seeds along with our other crops and press that out and get oil out of that too. So we're hoping to make our own fuel eventually.